closer affair, a low-scoring game, as they tend to be in Sharjah, it seems, in this competition, but South Africa coming out on top. And they left it late, we can say that, can't we? Because at one stage, or for most of the game, it looked as though, despite that low score, they were really struggling to chase it.
Yeah, I think credit to Sri Lanka also. They kept taking wickets. Whenever there was a partnership, we saw that some bowler, especially the left-arm spinner, he just would come in and take wickets, and the fielding was much better today from Sri Lanka. So overall, they did show a lot of fighting spirit, but at the end, David Miller really finished it up.
Well, he did, and in 5 star. Again, the captain was a little bit sort of Finch-like for Temba Bavuma, batting at number 4 today, not opening, but he hung in there, not the quickest innings he's ever going to play, but 46 for Temba Bavuma, just kept them going, kept them in the hunt.
Actually, when he got out, I felt he picked the length and he hit it, but didn't hit it hard enough or high enough. And it was a brilliant catch on the boundary, but I think that 46 was quite valuable in the end, because it did set things up for the individuals to come. Because I felt at some point that when they lost a few quick wickets in quick succession, I felt certainly that their backs were against the ropes then at the time. But Miller, a couple of those deliveries, back of the length, just got him into form and into nick. And we all know what Miller is capable of. Some brilliant shots.
In the end, I mean, that's why I was saying that the Yorkers and that bowling is really important. Kumara missed out the trick. The other day we saw Russell's Yorker and we saw Jordan's Yorkers. So if there would be a skillful bowler, it might match turn into the other team. So, but I think the captain Bhuma chose the right place for himself, because in the middle, when the spinners are there, there's enough space for a batsman to take single, rotation of strike. At the top, you need power. You need to send people who can,
Sorry, keep going. Yeah.
So finding the gaps, I think it's done well today.
मेरे ख्याल से ना इनका दोनों ने जो बैटिंग की है, मार्क्रम और बबूमा ने बहुत स्लो बैटिंग की है। 12 ओवर में 65 रन दोनों ने मिलके बनाए हैं, तो इनका आउट हो जाना मेरे ख्याल से बबूमा का अच्छा साबित हुआ। तो नीचे अगर पूरा मैच देखें, दोनों टीमों ने अंडर परफॉर्म किया है। सिर्फ और सिर्फ मिलर आया, उसने गेम को ख़त्म कर दिया। वो उसके अलावा मैच में अगर निशांका की बैटिंग है, अदरवाइज मैच में कुछ नहीं था। जो अच्छी बैटिंग नज़र आई है वो लास्ट कुछ बॉलों पे मिलर की आई है। दैट्स ऑल।
ये जब टाइम लास्ट पे आता है, उसके ऊपर आपने कोई प्रेडिक्शन भी दी है
इस
पैनल के बारे में?
12 बजे के बाद उर्दू वो हो जाएंगे, ये इंग्लिश हो जाएंगे।
12 बजे से पहले भी कुछ झलक नजर आ रही है।
कल सुबह 12 बजे की बात हो रही है, अभी की नहीं हो रही। नहीं, इसमें मैं ये कहूँगा, देखें कल भी आप बात कर रहे थे कि जब बाबर आजम खेला ना, जब आपका स्कोर 140 150 की जो है ना आपका स्कोर है बोर्ड पे, तो जैसे बुमा खेला है 46 किया उन्होंने, ठीक है, तो आपको एक आधा बैट्समैन ऐसा चाहिए कि जो रन बॉल खेले एंड रेस्ट ऑफ द टीम जो है ना वो उसके इर्द गिर्द खेलती है। तो उसमें हमें कल भी चेस में जो बाबर आजम खेले, फिर आसिफ ने आके किया, और इनके पास भी फायर पावर है, मिलर है, माकरम है, उनके पास फायर पावर थी। तो उनको ये था कि हम लोग अगर लंबा जाएंगे तो हम लोग इसको
अगर उसके ओपनर निसाका की जगह अगर मिडल में कोई एक छोटी इनिंग लाइक 30-35 की खेल देता तो 160 तक रन बन सकते थे। तो इसीलिए प्रॉब्लम्स यही तो आ रही है टीमों की कि जो मिडिल नंबर 4-5 की जो परफॉर्मेंसेस है वो नहीं आ रही। तो भूमा ने चलो ये तो किया कप्तान ने कि वो एक टोटल को के पास लेके गया पहले, जो कि बाद में मिलर ने आके मैच को फिनिश किया, जैसे आसिफ अली ने उस दिन।
बाबर और इसकी इनिंग्स में जो फर्क मुझे एक चीज का लगता है कि इधर नीचे इतनी बैटिंग मौजूद नहीं थी। यहाँ पर बाबर के पास अभी नीचे हमारे पास अभी भी डग आउट में भी लोग मौजूद थे। तो वो जो हम जिक्र कर रहे थे, क्योंकि हर दफा आसिफ अली 7 बॉलों पे 25 रन एक्सपेक्ट करना किसी से मुश्किल अच्छा नहीं है, और हम फाइनल जीतने के बारे में सोच रहे हैं, तो वो मुझे लगता है उधर थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस था। बट यहाँ पे मैं एग्री करती हूँ कि बबूमा के पास नीचे इतनी कोई लंबी बैटिंग लाइनअप इसके बाद मौजूद नहीं था, वो स्ट्रगल तो कर रहे थे।
नहीं वो देखें उसकी आप बिल्कुल ठीक बात कर रही हैं, लेकिन आप अपनी टीम की स्ट्रेंथ देखते हैं, अपनी टीम की स्ट्रेंथ देखते हैं और वीकनेस देखते हैं। जैसे हमने बात की कि टॉप 3 जो है ना 3-4 वो आसान है बैटिंग करना इन कंडीशन में कि वहाँ पे नया बॉल होता है तो आपके शॉट्स लगते हैं। उसके बाद जितने भी हैं मिडिल ऑर्डर क्यों फेल हो रहा है, मिडिल ऑर्डर क्यों रन नहीं कर रहा, उसकी वजह यह है कि बॉल स्पिन होता है, बॉल ग्रिप होना शुरू हो जाता है, बॉल बैट पे आता नहीं है। इसकी वजह से मिडिल ऑर्डर के प्लेयर जो हैं वो स्ट्रगल करते हैं। और फिर द क्वालिटी जिस तरह हमने कल आसिफ की देखी, आज मिलर की देखी हमने, तो ये लोग इसी वजह से टीम में हैं कि दीज गाइज आर फिनिशर।
There's an interesting discussion about how the middle order batters might be taking a bit more deliveries than they should have, and then more pressure can get onto likes of David Miller or Asif Ali, even though they are there for this very purpose, but you cannot consistently ask them the same thing. So there's an interesting discussion. Aaqib and Azhar bhai are saying that's their job and that should happen, but myself and Rashid bhai, I think we are of the view that even the middle order batters might have to improve the strike rate.
Yeah, I agree that if you can, then you want to keep the run rate up somewhere near the required run rate to take that pressure off at the end. But if you can't, if the pressure is consistently applied, and I thought actually Sri Lanka's spinners did a pretty good job keeping the pressure on, keeping that scoring rate down, then it's nice to have a David Miller or an Asif Ali yesterday. Yeah. Nice to have those guys who can suddenly put it into the stands and turn the game around, albeit right at the last moment.
One should never forget Rabada as well, because he hit some lofty blows, which I think helped to take some of the pressure off Miller. You can't forget, and in the end, he actually scratched the winning run. Or the winning runs.
Yeah, sure,
so he should never be forgotten.
But equally so, if you look at the Sri Lankan innings, I mean, the scores in the middle order there are even worse. I mean, they really struggle. I mean, an interesting thing there, actually, just to put it out in general terms, is that, I mean, Shamsi, although he's highly rated, very highly rated in world terms in this form of the game, I mean, you'd expect, I mean, I would expect Sri Lankan batsmen to cope better.
Yeah, I agree, and I would like to take this to Umar Gol. शमसी ने जिस तरह की बॉलिंग की है, प्लेयर ऑफ द मैच की है, वो कह रहे हैं कि थोड़ा बेहतर खेलना चाहिए था श्रीलंका के बैट्समैन को, बैटर्स को, शमसी को। 3 विकेट्स ली, 17 रन दे के हम पैकेज भी देखते हैं। आप थोड़ी सी अगर इनकी बॉलिंग के बारे में बात कर सकें।
आई थिंक समटाइम जो प्लेयर्स गलती करे, जो हम बार बार बात कर रहे हैं कि मिडिल ऑर्डर में वो रन्स नहीं हो रहे, समटाइम आपको किसी एक, अगर ये शमसी अच्छे बॉल कर रहे हैं, आप इसको रिस्पेक्ट करो, लेकिन आपके माइंड में कोई दूसरा इसका लाइक किसी बॉलर को तो आपने टारगेट तो करना ही है ना, कि जिस तरह हम सब कह रहे हैं कि मिडिल ऑर्डर में जो ना हिट मारना इजी नहीं होता, बॉल लो रहता है और बल्ले पे नहीं आता। लेकिन अगर आपने इनिंग्स बिल्ड करना है तो यू हैव टू प्लान कि किसी बॉलर को आपने टारगेट करना है, रेस्पेक्ट दो अच्छे बॉलर्स को। लेकिन यहाँ पे मेरे ख्याल से उनके जो श्रीलंकन बैट्समैन वो ट्राई कर रहे थे कि शमसी को उन्होंने सिंगल लेके रोटेट करने की कोशिश, लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो सीधा हाथ में जा रहे थे। या शमसी गुड बॉलर, रैंक नंबर 1 है, तो आई थिंक उसको रिस्पेक्ट दे, आप दूसरे किसी बॉलर को टारगेट कर सकते हो।
बड़ा अच्छा पॉइंट है कि इस बॉलर के अलावा किसी और को अटैक करते तो ज़्यादा बेहतर हो सकता।
रीड करना मुश्किल हो जाता है, रिस्ट स्पिनर को, गुगली, चाइनामैन, इसको टेस्ट मैचेस वगैरह में आपको पर टाइम होता है, यहाँ पे टाइम नहीं है, आपको हिट आउट करनी है। जब बॉल निकलती है उनको पता नहीं होता कि अंदर आएगी या बाहर जाएगी, उसमें मिस टाइमिंग हुई। आप देखें 2 कॉटन बॉल हुए और 1 स्लॉट लॉन्ग ऑन पे कैच आउट हुआ। तो कितने सारे बॉलर्स खेल रहे हैं इस वर्ल्ड कप में अराउंड द वर्ल्ड, लेकिन नंबर 1 शमसी है, तो रीज़न है कोई, तो इसको रीड करना बहुत ज़्यादा मुश्किल है मेरे ख्याल से। ये फ्लाइट भी ये डिसीव करते हैं एयर में, फ्लाइट को वेरी करते हैं, कभी ज़्यादा फ्लाइट दी, कभी कम फ्लाइट की, और देखते हैं लेफ्ट हैंडर को ज़्यादा चाइनामैन करनी है, गुगली करनी है, तो वो डिसाइड कर लेते हैं ये बैट्समैन को देख कर। पिच नो डाउट इनको सपोर्ट कर रही है, लेकिन इनकी जो बेस्ट थिंग है ये बैट्समैन को रीड कर लेते हैं।
Rashid, is there something in the action? Because it's such a quick action, is there something there which makes it hard?
I think batsman can't read him.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
If you see the both dismissal, you know, like one was playing across the line and the other one didn't pick the wrong one. So there's 2 different deliveries, you know, one was going away, the other one going from away from the right hander. So he just tried to hit through mid wicket and then went back to, because the ball is not coming, because ball is not coming to the bat, you know, that's why middle order struggle in this tournament.
But the action is quick.
Yeah.
A little bit like Rashid Khan, for instance. I mean, that action again is Sorry, Viv, I'm taking your tricks here. But, yeah, but that action here. Do you want to do it?
Take away their one.
That's it.
The googling.
Yeah.
I think Sri Lankan batsman being an Asian.
Time. 12 o'clock.
Okay. The Asian players, Sri Lankan, उनको पिक करना चाहिए बिकॉज मुरलीधरन वहाँ से खेलता है, ये सारे जो इनके मिस्ट्री बॉलर्स हैं वहाँ खेलते हैं, तो एशियन प्लेयर्स की को एडवांटेज क्या है कि ज़्यादा उन्होंने स्पिन वो देखते हैं और वो हाथ से यहाँ से उनको ज़्यादा समझ आती है, तो कम से कम इनको रीड तो करना चाहिए.
रीड करें, स्टॉप कर सकते हैं, हिट मारने में मिस हो जाता है.
और असल में ये है कि जब थोड़ी सी प्रॉब्लम आती है तो स्वीप की कोशिश करें. सामने अगर आप रीड नहीं कर रहे तो सामने मारना तो इट्स इम्पॉसिबल.
Viv, can I ask you a question? Did you ever read spin in the air?
Yes,
Did you
sometimes.
see? Yes. So if
you
you
try
haven't
and-
necessarily seen it,
or else the next best
I'm
step.
not suggesting you never read it, but you could see it in the air sometimes.
You can see sometimes the roll in the air, but these guys today are so difficult, especially when they do that little stuff. You can see the leg break at times and the googly.
But no, but that's the point. If you don't pick it, if the action is such that you don't necessarily pick it, I'm doing it now. If you don't pick it out of the hand, can you make adjustments in that half second?
Yeah, if you're quick enough, you're quick enough to go back and read it off the track, which I think a lot of these guys are doing because they're not picking.
So
and one
that's
thing-
no then.
and
Right,
one
so
thing-
same question to
and
you.
one thing
Same
more.
question to you. Did you pick the?
Yeah, if on a good day I would pick. I mean, the best example. Okay, hand on heart. Not every time. Okay, not every time. So but when you get used to picks, I always tend to think that especially with the wrist spinners, you need to see them probably a couple of times to get used to what they do. So I mean, Abdul Qadir was the one that I thought was outstanding, and the first couple of times you see him, you don't necessarily pick the googly or the flipper, but then you start to work it out a bit, and then you guess a bit better. And you get a bit better as well once you've guessed a bit better. And in between, if you think of if there's one coming towards you haven't picked, you think, well, I better sort of try and cover whatever I can. But obviously that's a test match where you can defend, whereas this is a T20 where you're trying to attack. So if you haven't decided what it is when it leaves the hand, then you are guessing what's going to happen when it gets to you. And we've seen those three examples today, they guessed wrong.
It's
and
very
one
difficult in this format, especially if you're not picking it and making runs on those deliveries as well. So it's very hard for the batsman as
Can
well.
I make a little input here? I do not believe the Asian players these days, because when you used to come to Asia and India, Pakistan, you always felt that these guys, we used to work with spinners and sometimes they were hopeless. I find in the modern day, the Asian spinners, batters, ain't as good as they once were when it comes to playing spin.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, sir. You spot on.
Yeah, and that
Well,
was
why is that then? Sorry, I mean, it's a good point, but why do we think that is?
I can't put the point on that, but maybe the test cricket, the people used to play test cricket a lot, but now it's T20. And, as you mentioned, when you're watching these guys over and over again, and you can get an idea, maybe you can pick, if you're not picking from the hand, maybe you can pick in the air, the ball, rotation of the ball and going across the seam. So you can pick it that way. So a lot of players have a different thing. But now in the modern day, because of a lot of variety, and you just want to hit the ball. So it's sometimes it's very difficult to pick it. I think so.
Yeah.
That's
And sometimes with modern bats, you get away with it.
top edge goes for six.
Off he goes. Yeah, good shot.
and the flight has been more different. I mean, in previous years and eras, the fielding restrictions were different. There were more fielders outside the circle, so the spinner could give the flight, and there was more time for the batter to read the spinner. But now there are extra fielders inside the circle, and most of the spinners, their general pace has definitely increased. And that's why you have, I guess, lesser time to actually read the spinners, the length and the break also.
Yeah. Let's not forget that it wasn't all disaster for the batsmen here today. Some of them did actually perform rather well. And for Sri Lanka, their opener, Patam Nisanka, was top scorer with 72. He played a bit of a lone hand because his middle order did let him down. But he kept it together, 72 from 58. So not only did he keep it together, but he also managed to keep the scoring rate up as best he could too.
What I found today as well, they kept keep losing wickets at a rapid rate. And that knock today deserved much better because he was brilliant all around the ground and especially on the pressure as well, losing wickets at the other end. I just think it was a marvelous knock. I think they were short by about 20 or so runs today.
Yeah, even then, of course, as we said earlier, the recovery in the last couple of overs by South Africa with the bat got them out of jail because in a sense I actually felt sorry for Sri Lanka because for so much of the game, well, second part of the game, they kept South Africa under control, that they seemed to deserve to win it until things went astray. But this innings, certainly in the first part of the day, was a stunning inning.
Yes, lone effort, no resistance from the other side. I think if one mini inning, middle of the inning, they might have scored 160 and won the game. But I think they look good. I mean, so far, Raja Paksha, that guy, Asalanka.
That guy, he's back again. That guy plays for so many teams.
The famous guy.
The famous guy, yeah.
The guy. I think one mini inning along with the opener could have been past 160, 165. And in Sharjah, it's not easy for any team to chase down, isn't it?
But there's an interesting stat now that I've just noticed. If you see, at the end, his innings finished at 72 runs and 58 deliveries, 124 strike rate. But the whole innings, he has been playing with a 100 strike rate. And it had put a lot of pressure on the batters who came in the middle because when you saw in 9.3 overs, it was just 62 on the board. And most of the wickets from 10 to 14 overs, what's his name? Shamsi came and got 3 wickets. So he was 34 of 35. He was 40 of 39. He was 49 of 45. And in the end, he accelerated and he was 72 of 58. So sometimes the construction of such innings we'll have to think about in a T20 game.
It's a moot point, isn't it? Because we've had this discussion sometimes, especially during PSL with Baba, about his scoring rates and those forced around it. I mean, we'll no doubt do it again. Forced to maybe try and up the rate. Whereas if you look at the basic figures, I'd have to go slightly the other way and say, well, look, if guys get out for 0, 3, 4 and 11 in the middle order, they're the problem, not the guy who's getting 72 at the top of the order. If one of those had come off, because the next best score was Asalanka, who is an informed player. If he'd got, say, 40 or 50 instead of 21, they'd have been 120 for one, and then it's a very different game.
Yeah,
but all good points.
Yeah,
all good
that's
points.
another way. Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, let's leave that one there for now. Not Sri Lanka's day in the end, sadly for them, but South Africa coming out on top. We have one more part still to come, so stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.